Yeah, there are other headlines here. We're not overwhelmed by security challenges, says federal government. That's on page 8. Train attack. Bandits free Agric Bank MD. Page 6. I didn't have details of whether there was a ransom or not. All right, continue.
Okay, we'll take a look at the Punch newspaper. Same NIN. Deactivated subscribers want 3-month extension. Enrollment centers congested. 2 die in Jonathan's convoy crash, others injured. Lassa fever spreads as COVID-19 cases drop, and federal government lifts restrictions. Ex-Governor Atta slams Malami with 1.5 billion naira defamation suit. NNPC pays $3.68 billion, owes Total, Ajib, and Shell $1.01 billion cash call debts. COVID-19 test. Senate protests Ghana's maltreatment of Nigerians. Zoning crisis threatens PDP, and South insists on presidency. We have 3 riders. Party in dilemma over zoning, doesn't want to appear anti-South. That's according to a chieftain of the party. Ex-Governor Fayose buys presidential form, rejects Saraki consensus proposal. Adopting zoning now undemocratic, it will shut out the best. That's according to the Adamawa chair. And then the terrorists killed 3, abduct many in Taraba, Bank MD freed. 107-year-old woman and teenager remanded for removing Kano boy's eye. Pensioners threaten showdown with Fayemi Abiodun, Southeast governors. That's retiree slumps. Fire.
All right, we really have Al Jazeera here. Let's take a few of them. APC disowns primary elections timetable in circulation. Victory for women court back 35 affirmative action on page 8. Plaintiff led cogent verifiable evidence backed by incontrovertible deposition of says the Jude. We'll get that story on page 8 as well. Of course, we read about Burkina Faso's ex-president who has a life jail term now. Afghan National Secretary defects to PDP. That's Liberal Michael. Ramadan can felicitates with Muslims, urges peaceful coexistence. That's on page 2. 2 dead as ex-president Jonathan's convoy involved in car accident. That's on page 10. Bayer.
Thank you. Let's start with the story about the accident in the convoy of former President Goodluck Jonathan. There was a fatal accident involving the convoy of the former President Goodluck Jonathan within the precinct of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Although the former president was unhurt, 2 policemen died on the spot, while 2 others were seriously injured. A statement by Mr. Ikichukwueze, a spokesman for the former president, says that the accident involved the car conveying the security personnel working with the former president.
But let's discuss this a little bit. Have you ever sighted a convoy? And look at the kind of speed.
They come with their speed
with no respect for road signs or any other road rules and regulations. So I'm not saying that we're not celebrating the accident, but that is what is expected to occur when somebody under the wheels is driving without caution. That's what they do. I wonder why. In our own parlance, that people in escort overspeed. In fact, sometimes they will almost knock cars on the road and what have you. They drive sometimes zigzag. Is it a show or something? Because that has been happening. We've heard about convoys hitting people. I recall some years ago a couple that just wedded. A convoy hit both of them and they died a day after their wedding. You know, so this convoy thing, they should be careful. I don't know.
There's been several accidents involving convoy, and because they are VIP personalities, often they become very controversial. There was one involving a leader in the National Assembly. There was one involving a governor in the North Central State. And this one, however, you can imagine, they went to pick the former president at the airport. And it happened even before they got out of the airport. So you can imagine the speed that it is. But the good thing about it is that the former president has testified that these were very dutiful officers. He has commiserated with the families as well as the police high command. But whatever the case is, it should be a lesson for those who work in the convoy. There's nothing than safety.
Yeah, that's fine. And I would commiserate with the families and institutions of those who have died. What is not in the story, as I've read it in either in the Punch or other publications I read earlier, how did the accident occur? Because the Bill Clinton Avenue, that's the main arteryway,
yes.
Is a dual carriageway. And if it is said that the accident happened within the vicinity of the airport, then they couldn't have been the result of overspeeding. What is it that happened? How did the accident happen? And the accident did not involve the vehicle of the former president. Dual carriageway, which means that you have at least two or three lanes when you are exiting the airport and heading towards the Yaradua Expressway. And so you have to ask yourself, how did the accident occur? That's one. Second point, there are issues with the design of even that dual carriageway, because there are U-turn points. U-turn points when you see the NAF, that's the Nigerian Air Force base, you also see the prisons or the correctional services and so on and so forth. Is it that another vehicle was making a U-turn and then the convoy now ran into that vehicle? So what is required is, how did the accident occur? Because these are the things that we'll have to get into. There is no, hang on a second. I'm just wondering, I mean, if the former president was going to the airport, there might be a presumption that, oh, he was rushing to catch a flight. But now he was exiting the airport and going to his residence. So why the rush? And the accident happened on the Bill Clinton Avenue. How did it occur? I've always been concerned about the design. When I drive on that dual carriageway, you have to be careful. You have motorcyclists, you have all kinds of vehicles that are making U-turns and getting it. But if the report is that the former president was just exiting the airport, it couldn't have been the result of overspeeding.
If you look at the fatality of it, on page 2 of leadership, you see the fatality of it. The vehicles rammed into each other. In fact, one is just beyond, you don't even need to think about repairing it. So I'm afraid that speed was part of it, because the fatality is just...
Where did it occur? That's the point. Look, same yesterday. Let me give you an example. Same yesterday, on my way to the studios, I took that route, but in front of the National Mosque, a vehicle somersaulted. This was just around about 6:30 or 6:40, between 6:30 and 6:40. A vehicle somersaulted, and the clear indication was overspeeding, because that's the Southern Parkway where you are moving on. As you said, that's the leadership you are showing us now. You see the dented vehicles and so on and so forth. My point is, where did the incident occur? And secondly, the issue that has been raised about the behavior of convoys is an important one. I sometimes ask myself, when you see convoys driving, it's almost bumper to bumper. So you say, in any eventuality, what reaction time do you have? Because if something happens to the pilot, that's the pilot, the first car, or the vehicle immediately in front of you, how do you respond? So it's a critical thing. Put aside the behavior, the bad behavior of security officers who are in those convoys, shooing off other drivers from the road. They rarely use horsewhips these days. But they threaten you and so on and so forth. It's an unfortunate thing that this has happened, and we do hope that the road safety will get to the root of the matter.
Yes, the road safety should get to it, and also the police high command should also sit their officers down and talk to them about their conduct on the highway, because here we are, we have lost 2 officers. Anyway, the other story that Kirian read is about those who kidnapped our compatriots on the Abuja Kaduna train have now released the managing director of Agric Bank. But they have put out a video and they said that they succumbed to the plea of the old man in consideration of the period of Ramadan to release him to his family. However, they have sent a message saying that the government must respond to their demands. They didn't say what their demand is, and they said that they know what their demand is, and if not, they should respond to their demand. Otherwise, the people at their capture will be at serious risk. They even indicated clearly that they are not interested in money, adding that the federal government knows what they are asking for. And I find that very, very curious. Specifically, too, they had shot that video which they sent at the camp at Polwire, where there was an attack on our military camp just last Monday.
Well, this the bandits are at it again. This time they don't need money. They are now asking for what government should do for them. I know I've also read some of their publications in the past, saying that they have been ignored. They have no hospitals, no water, no employment for them. No, they have been ignored and rejected and neglected by the society. So that's why they took up arms. Some of them who were ahead had said that their cattle were rustled and what have you. So they don't have any other means of livelihood, so they took arms, to, of course, fend for themselves. That's some of the reasons we have read in the past about this issue of what government should do for them. When one sheikh was trying to be a good Nigerian, to say, look, this is what these people want. Let that be amnesty and what have you. But that area has not been explored to see if it is possible to get them into talking, and see if we can do some kind of amnesty for them to see whether they can draw what they're doing.
Well, it's an ongoing issue. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure that the security agencies are working to ensure that those who are still in captivity regain their freedom.
Yes,
so we don't jeopardize.
We don't have a figure, but it's very worrying. By today, since last Monday, they are spending over
10 days now.
10 days now in captivity.
More than 10 days, yeah. That was on the 28th. It was on the 28th of March.
And there was this family involved. I don't know whether they have been released. A family, a man, his wife, and 4 children.
Yeah, the one that was publicized by Senator Shehu Sani.
Yes.
He sent out the photograph. So we just hope that all will be well and that all will end well. Bayo Toyobi, deep thanks for being around today. See you again tomorrow. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the process to amend the Constitution for a 5th time. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and for a backgrounder on our conversation this morning, which is on the amendment of the Constitution for a 5th time, let's listen to this background report by Oyemi Ajayi.
On the 1st of March 2022, the National Assembly voted on the 68 Constitution amendments recommended by the Joint Senate and House of Representatives Special Ad Hoc Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution. These bills deal with major issues on development, governance, politics, and the economy. As expected, some of the bills deliberated were passed, while others couldn't scale through. The Senate approved the financial autonomy for state legislatures, judicial and local governments in the country, and this means that the local government areas, state legislatures, and the judiciary arm of the state will no longer have to wait on state governors for funds. They voted against 35% affirmative action in party administration and leadership, as well as specific seats for women in the National Assembly. They also denied citizenship to the foreign-born husbands of a Nigerian woman and the ability to take indigenship of their husband's state after 5 years of being together, amongst others. However, to amend the clause in the Constitution, 2/3 or 4/5 majority of each of the Senate and the House have to approve the amendment, after which it will be transmitted to the state houses of assembly, where 2/3 or 24 of the 36 of them have to concur. The clerk to the National Assembly, Amos Ojo, explains that the process was in compliance with the Section 9, subsection 2 of the Constitution. This informed the National Assembly's transmission of the 44 recently passed constitution alteration bills to the 36 state houses of assembly for concurrence. Receiving on behalf of the 36 state houses of assembly, the chairperson Forum of Clerks of State Houses of Assembly and the clerk to the Delta State House of Assembly said necessary legislative processes required for the bills to be considered by the various state houses of assembly will be carried out.
Must not forget that the sacred duty of clerks is ensuring that Nigerian and Nigerians get a new working constitution. We must hold the unfolding responsibilities and opportunities we both have.
With the cooperation of the members of the State Houses of Assembly, our principal, the Speaker, we pledge to see that this work job is given the urgent legislative attention it requires.
Now, with this, what is expected from the states' national assemblies to work on the bills? How fast can the houses deliberate on them? What next after the state assemblies pass the bill? These are some questions guests will be discussing shortly.
Well, thank you, Oyemi, for that backgrounder. And now to discuss the matter, we have here in the studio Dr. Innocent Mebiri. Dr. Mebiri is the Director Legislative and Clerk, Senate Committee on Review of 1999 Constitution. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And we also have from our Kaduna studio, we have Right Honorable Dr. Isaac Zankai, Deputy Speaker, Kaduna State House of Assembly. It's good morning and welcome to the program. All right, Kinsley.
All right. Actually, we have two guests in our Kaduna Network Center. There is also Honorable Suleiman Dabo, who is a member of the Kaduna State House of Assembly. And from Kano, we are being joined by Zubairu Hamza Masu, who is the Deputy Speaker of the Kano State House of Assembly and Chairman Ad Hoc Committee on Constitution Amendment. Honorable Zubairu Masu, we are delighted to have you on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Happy to meet you.
All right. So let's go back to Kaduna again so that we see the faces of those who will be discussing with us from our Kaduna Network Center. Right Honorable Dr. Isaac Zankai, Deputy Speaker of the Kaduna House of Assembly, is there in the studios. And we also have Honorable Suleiman Dabo, who is a member of the Kaduna State House of Assembly. Gentlemen, our pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I hope you are comfortable on that chair because you seem to be leaning to one side. I hope it's comfortable for you. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. So, gentlemen, let's start off the conversation with the director in the office of the clerk of the National Assembly. That's Dr. Innocent Mebiri. Dr. Mebiri, for the benefit of our viewers, tell us what is at play now since the two chambers of the National Assembly passed the bills.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers. 68 bills were tabled before the two chambers of the National Assembly on constitutional amendment. Out of the 68 bills, 44 were passed in the same form, that is to say, without amendments. And by the provision of Section 9.2, it's only when that is achieved that the bill can move from the National Assembly to the State Assembly. That was achieved. And it took the administrative processes, the legal processes, to get the instrument to be transmitted to the State Assembly, which was finally done. And the ball is at the court of the State Assembly. And by the virtue of that same provision, we require 2/3 of states to have a resolution in support of what the National Assembly has passed before it can become a law when Mr. President has assented to them all. And that's where we are now. The ball is at the State Assembly to get resolution on the issues, the 44 bills that has been passed by the two chambers in the same form. And that's where we are now. The Constitution did not really define the modality that the state will pass through before the resolution is acquired. But the issue is that it requires a resolution of the State Assembly to get any of the bills returned to National Assembly before it will be transmitted to Mr. President for his assent.
Okay, let me stay with you. You are the clerk of the committee on review, so invariably you understand that the intricacies, of the process, before you got to the stage it is at the moment. You said 68 were brought, up, but 44 were passed in the same form. In the same form, right? Let us understand what that means. You said 44 passed in the same form. Does it mean that these 44 were not amended in any way?
Yeah, that's what it means.
So it lifted from the 1999 Constitution and passed without...
No.
So let's our viewers understand what it means that they are passed in the same form.
In the same form is when you get the bill and you process it to be tabled before the two chambers of the National Assembly. If there is any amendment in any of the bill and passed, until that amended part is harmonized and you have a 2/3 that have accepted that amendment, it will not move from the National Assembly to the State Assembly. So it means that the Senate can pass a bill with an amendment and the House can equally pass a bill with an amendment. But so long as there is an amendment in any of the chambers, and if these amendments are not in the same form too, it will not go. It must always be in the same form. Either you pass it the way it has been tabled, or you amend it in the same form before it can leave the National Assembly to the State Assembly.
Dr. Mayberry, you use the expression in the same form, When there's an amendment, it means that the form has been altered.
Yeah.
Okay, just wait again. Explain. That's what my colleague Kieran was expecting you to explain. Let us take a bill.
Yeah.
Bill number 1, for instance, to alter the Constitution. The bill is tabled before the Senate. The Senate considers the bill, and if it passes it the way it was tabled, it stays like that. The same bill number 1 is tabled before the House of Reps. If the House of Reps debates on it and passes it that same way, then it means that the bill has been passed in the same form.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's the same form.
Yeah.
Now, what Kieran was asking is, if you bring now Bill 2, and the Senate passes it with an amendment, and you go to the House of Reps, and the House of Reps also passes it with an amendment, what is the nature of that amendment for the bill to qualify for transmission to the next? That's the kernel of what he's asking.
Now, let me bring it this way. What a committee tables before the two chambers of National Assembly is their recommendation. Now, if the Senate approves the recommendation without amendment, and the House approves that recommendation without an amendment, that means they have passed it in the same form. Now, if the Senate approves that recommendation with an amendment, and the House approves that same recommendation with an amendment in the same form, so you see two different things. The same form, in the same manner.
Don't say similar amendment.
Similar amendment. And it must be the same amendment, not just similar. Something can be similar but not the same. In the same form, in the same manner, it goes. It's only when they make amendments that are not in the same form, or one passes without the amendment and the other one does not amend anything, then it cannot really go. So it can go in two ways. One, there is no amendment. They pass it in the same form, the way it has come. Two, they pass it with the same kind of amendment. Those are the two ways that it can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is how we now got to 44 bills.
44 bills.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to Kano, where we have Zubairu Hamza Matsuli, Deputy Speaker, Kano State House of Assembly, and Chairman Ad Hoc Committee, on Constitution Amendment. Now, the bills have been transmitted to the state assemblies, and of course, the ball is now in the court of these state assemblies. And we want you to explain to Nigerians what is the responsibility of these houses of assembly with respect to this amendment, because some people were even asking questions as to what should be your responsibility in this respect. What is expected of you to ensure that this amendment stays through and is transmitted to the president for assent?
Yes, of course, like all other 36 states of the Federation, Kano State House of Assembly is not an exception. The draft bills are transmitted to Kano State House of Assembly through the clerk of the House. And soon after the receipt, the House resolved to constitute an ad hoc committee under my chairmanship to look for the amended area with a view to brief the House or to report to the House on the needful. Yes, of course, there is need, based on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Section 9, Sub 2, that after the voting by the Senate and, of course, their counterpart House of Representatives, there is need for all the State House of Assembly in the Federation to concur with the resolution. And the committee is mandated to study these report bills, and of course, soon after the House resume from the session, from the recess, we are going to do what is needful.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zubairu Masu. We'll come back to you. But there's a comment you made there. I don't know whether that was a slip. You said that there's a need, or there will be the need for all 36 State House of Assembly to concur. That doesn't tally with the constitutional provision for amending the Constitution itself. We'll get back to you in the course of this conversation. Now back to Kaduna Network Center, where we earlier introduced the Deputy Speaker of the State House of Assembly in Kaduna, and also Honorable Suleiman Dabo, who's a member of the Kaduna House of Assembly. Let's begin with the Deputy Speaker. Gentlemen, I don't have enough information about your legislative experience, but this is the 5th attempt the country is making at amending the Constitution since the return to democracy in 1999. Assuming you had participated in any previous alteration, that's to say 4 earlier alterations, what was the experience like?
Well, the experience was very interesting because the amendments have already been taken at the national levels. and were sent to us to see the need and to see what is involved. As it is in every assembly, we will definitely constitute a committee, an ad hoc committee, that will go into our in-depth study of the amendment, and then we'll report back to the House. We did that, and we saw the need in the previous ones to assent and agree to what was required for the amendment. And of course, we took part in the amendment, and I'm sure it's going to be the something with this one when the amendments are to the assembly will still do the something to make sure that the committee is, an ad hoc committee is set up to look into the amendments and report back to the House for further legislative functions. And this we will do, also knowing that it is a mandate that is on us to make sure that what is required in that amendment goes down well with Nigerians.
Okay, let's also turn to Honorable Suleiman Dabo, who is currently a member of the State House of Assembly. I'm just being a little bit curious about how the responsibility of the State Houses of Assembly will deal with this. Is there a kind of a synergy between these houses, with respect to deliberations that you have to embark on, before decisions are made at that level? Is there a kind of a coordination or collaboration between the houses of assembly across the nation to critically take a look at these bills to be able to get the two-thirds majority required from the houses of assembly to get this bill passed at the state level?
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. I think it is also important for all of us and all Nigerians to understand that for the first time since 1999, since we returned back to democracy in 1999, that the state houses of assembly are provided with a litmus test. What do I mean by this is I think in the course of alteration or amendment of the Nigerian Constitution, for the first time since 1999, we've had a situation whereby all the clerks of state assemblies were met in one place and they were transmitted with documents related to the amendment. Having said this, you see, in our last program that I featured here, I talked about the issue of our peculiarities and symmetries. I have had a kind of discussion because at the administrative level, we can say that the clerks of the assembly, because we saw the chairperson of the forum of the state assemblies commenting and
we seem
to have lost that signal.
Lost signal.
Okay, while that is being sorted out, we want to go over to our Makurdi Network Center. Our Makurdi Network Center, if that is also up at this time, we have a guest there. It's Right Honorable David Yohemba. David Yohemba is a former Speaker of the Benue State House of Assembly. Honorable Yohemba, it's our pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning. And straight away, I want to assume that you've had previous legislative experience in the alteration process of the Constitution. If so, kindly lead our viewers through the procedure and process at the State House of Assembly.
Well, as the other discussants have rightly stated, the procedure for amendment of the Constitution is such that, as you are aware, we have 36 states in the Federation. and 2/3 of 36 is 24. All they must be concurrence from 24 states of the Federation before the amendments are taken to have been rally passed. And that will form part of the discussion, and then it is transmitted to the presidency for assent. But in a situation where you cannot get 24 states, then it clearly means that 2/3 of 36 is not met. So that is just the procedure. These amendments are sent to various states' houses of assembly. They deliberate on them. Indeed, sometimes they vote to harmonize their own position. It's either it is passed roundly or that they reject it. And it is in this voting pattern that you know whether such amendments have passed through that state. So various state houses of assembly are required to deliberate on those amendments and then pass it, return them back to the National Assembly. If 24 is met, if 24 states come back satisfactorily with the amendment, it then means that that amendment has passed, and it will now be compiled and sent to the presidency for assent.
Honorable Yohemba, I still want to stay with you. When I asked about the procedure in the state legislature, I wanted to find out, does a state house of assembly hold a public hearing before it gets into debating and voting where necessary on a proposed amendment?
Not actually holding a public hearing in any of the provisions. These provisions have been debated and passed by the two houses of the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And when this happens, they are only transmitted to the various state houses of assembly. We do not engage in any public hearing again. What we do is look at them. The clerk will circulate them to all members of the State House of Assembly. Indeed, there's an ad hoc committee that handles it. They now look at them, compare them, bring them out to all members. You look at it consciously. In most cases, we regard it in the House as every person answering his own name. You are called upon to vote on each of the provisions that have been brought. So it's not a voice vote. You call on each member to vote, and then it is being recorded. If you have, for instance, in Benue, that we have 30 members of the House of Assembly, if the voting is such a manner that each of them, all the members are voting in favor of such a provision, it then means that that provision has been passed, and we mark it as being accepted by the Benue State House of Assembly. So that is the requirement. You don't engage in any public hearing in a situation where the National Assembly has already debated and passed. It is only left for us to concur.
Okay. Kira, I mean, the point I was asking, because in terms of process or procedure, you say the House of Assembly debates. So what are you debating? You're debating the bill as passed by the National Assembly given to you. And we do understand that there are peculiarities within each of the jurisdictions, that is to say the states. Okay, already state lawmakers are representatives of the people, but you don't get an input from the people before you now vote on the fundamental alteration to the ground norm?
I think that, from what he said, I think it is a standing procedure because the members of National Assembly are also representatives of the people across Nigeria and have held a public hearing as well before they came up with what they have at the moment. So that from what he had said, it means that if it's transmitted to the House of Assembly, there will have been no need for you to do public hearing again when it has been done at the national level.
You know what I'm saying is, I mean, we saw the protests and demonstrations by women in respect of their bills and other matters. And they did say that they were going to take their campaigns to the state level, although we know that some of those issues are dead for now. They could be resurrected.
Okay.
All right, Kirian.
Yes, let's return to Honorable Suleiman Dabo. Honorable Dabo, sorry we had issues along the line of communication with our studios in Kaduna when you were making your initial statement. I hope you still can recall your lines. I would like to come back to you to complete that opening remarks before we continue the conversation. Go ahead, please.
Okay. What I was trying to simply say is that for the first time, the state houses of assembly are coming together under one more or less umbrella that is in compliance with Section 9, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. From my discussion with the Speaker, happily the Kaduna State House of Assembly, the Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly is the chairman of the Northern Speakers Forum. And I think for our line of reasoning is that there is the need for the Speaker to bring especially Northern speakers on board so that we can be on the path of tolerance. Because if you look at most of the bills or most of the amendments as passed by the National Assembly, they are more or less very, very important. If you look at some of them, they have to even do with the individual assemblies themselves. For example, now we have standing orders of the various state assemblies, where even the process of selection of leadership is there, which is more or less different from what is obtainable at the National Assembly. So I think these are areas that we cannot joke with. We have to make sure that these procedures are okay. And also, I want to chip in on the last statement regarding the issue of debating the matter. You see, it's about the issue of the legal framework. The Nigerian Constitution did not say, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I have not seen and I have not heard any provision of the Nigerian Constitution that says maybe a public hearing is not needed. Because if we want to, because I remember the last time when I featured here, I was talking about the issue of ownership of whatever we are going to do by the larger voting populace or larger Nigerians. So but for us in the State House of Kaduna State House of Assembly, what we are trying to do is to go on a retreat as an assembly to discuss this issue, and we've already advised the Speaker on the need to bring all the speakers of northern states to come together, discuss this issue, because this is a very, very important period and a very critical period in determining the future of even the state assemblies and local governments. For example, if you look at some of the bills, the amendments as proposed or as passed by the National Assembly, you see that the issue of local government administration in Nigeria, local governments, this abrogation of joint accounts between states and local government, this is something that has to come to see the light of the day. Because if you look at other climes in terms of federating arrangements, federating units, you find out, for example, in Switzerland today, though it's a confederal system, you see that even the federating units, they have even their legal instrument. But in Nigeria, even if we take it from the side of, we take it from the academic point of view, in Nigerian context, we have a very unique federal system of government where you have 3 tiers of government in court. Because now, as proposed in the amendment, you see that we are trying to even restructure the local government administration to give this kind of legal fluidity of saying, okay, let them be called truly third tier of government. Because in reality, they are not, because now, if you look at their funding, it will go to the state, then the state will have absolute control of the funds. Now, also, the amendment is also talking about even the tenure, the period of election. All these things have to be clearly spelled out. And these are issues that we have to take very seriously in order to internalize and institutionalize democracy as a system of governance. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. I know it will be very difficult because already that 2/3, it's I know it's possible, but it's going to be very, very difficult because I don't know what the Constitution says in the event of the 2/3, that is 24 states, is not achieved, then what else? Because at the National Assembly, I have to commend the National Assembly for what they have done so far, because we've not seen, personally, I've not seen, even if there was, I've not seen a situation whereby the conference committee has to come into play discussing issues where there are disagreements and reconciliation, you know. Happily, 44 out of 68 proposed bills have seen the light of the day at the center from the National Assembly, and now it is now the responsibility of the state houses of assembly to do the needful. And I think if we can do our homework very well, especially the example I just gave of what the Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly is trying to do to bring the speakers of the northern assemblies on board, if other regions of the geopolitical zones, if other speakers will do that, I think it will go a long way in making sure that this concurrence see the light of the day. I think I think this is very important. And lastly, you see, this issue of I want to just say it again. This issue of debating the matter, for me, I see it as something very important, especially in areas where there are strong disagreements. You see, most of the bills related to gender equality for women and whatever have not seen the light of the day at the National Assembly. So I don't want a situation whereby the people, because we have the mandate of the people, we've been elected by the people, so we have to respect the yearnings and aspirations of the people. Even if we are going to put it behind us, let us have this kind of justification, giving them the reasons that they will be convinced that as representatives of the people, we've done the needful, we've done what we're supposed to do, and they are convinced that our positions, our opinions are really convincing, and they are legitimate. This is my opinion. So I wouldn't want a situation, because if the Nigerian Constitution has not clearly spelled out that when you go on public hearing is illegal. So I believe if it is not there, doing it, of course, will not be harmful. It will be good, because we are talking about the people. We are talking about Nigeria. We are talking about building institutions of democracy. We are talking about development. So I don't think it's something that we will say it's not good. So for me, I think if we can have situations or scenarios where people will say, okay, we want it, then we can look into it and see, so that at least we can have this kind of respect and legitimacy in whatever we are going to do as people who are abiding by the laws of the land. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Suleiman Dabo. Let's also hear the views of the Deputy Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Dr. Isaac Zankai, on the issue of process and procedure that a State House of Assembly may adopt in dealing with the 44 bills now before it.
Very much. I stand to support what my colleague has said, because essentially we are in the same assembly. And for me, I share the same views with him, because we represent people and people elected us, and we need to do what is our mandate. And if we can organize public hearings for other bills, I don't see anything wrong for us to organize public hearings to see how we can vote on constitutional amendments. This is my position. Secondly, the procedures, as already been explained, will go through the same procedures that any bill sent to the House of Assembly will do. And it is on this that the issue of public hearing may come up, especially when members have diverse views concerning the various amendments. So for everyone to say his vote, he definitely will be interested in knowing what his constituents want. And as Nigerians, we want to give our constituents the best, and which is Nigeria. So I'm sure the issue of synergy will only come in when the speakers of various assemblies decide to take it upon themselves that, look, we have similar issues, we have different problems, how do we harmonize them? And that is where harmonization may arise. Otherwise, the voting will go on as individual assemblies to be collated and to be announced as a result, which will definitely show the position of every House of Assembly in the 36 states of Nigeria. But I'm very sure there will be areas where we are going to have some synergies, looking at the amendments as it relates to our problems as states, which are part of, which actually constitute Nigeria. So I'm very sure that may come up. It's also a possibility. However, the House of Assembly in Kaduna State will do nothing less but to follow the accepted ways of passing a bill into law to look at these amendments. This will be our position. Thank you very much.
Okay. Before we return to the studio where we have Dr. Innocent, let's go back to Makurdi. Yes, where we have Honorable David Yohemba, former Speaker, Benue State House of Assembly. All right, we'll get to Makurdi very shortly, but before that, let's go to Kano, where we have Zubiru Hamza Masu, Deputy Speaker, Kano State House of Assembly. You just listened to your colleagues, from Kaduna House of Assembly, with the opinion that it is important to have a public hearing at the state level before they can vote in favor or otherwise of the bills before the state houses of assembly. Is it a normal procedure? Do you think it is necessary to do that at state level? Having been done by the National Assembly, who also represents Nigerians in fact every constituency in Nigeria has a rep in the National Assembly. So should that procedure, is that procedure acceptable by you to go and start having all over again public hearing on those bills? The bills are 44 in number, and you can as well know what it will take to organize a public hearing on all those bills. Is it an acceptable procedure in this respect?
Yes, of course. Kano State is not an exception. We do undergo process of a public hearing in almost all the bills. So this is critical. It must undergo the public hearing where members from the community will voice out and will air their views, at the end of which we are going to compile. Then it is going to be subjected to the other legislative activities. The issue of public hearing is inevitable in Kano. Thank you.
Honorable Masu, why do you say that public hearing is inevitable in Kano? I mean, one would imagine, for instance, without prejudice to what the lawmakers in Kano may opt to do, there are 44 bills. You might say, okay, a number of these bills are not so contentious, so we can get them passed, or you get memoranda from members of the public. But when you say, in general, that there would be a public hearing and that is inevitable, what does that mean?
Yeah, like the issue of setting aside certain constituencies for the people, for the female to contest an election. So based on the nature, that is the peculiarity of our state, the norm and value, we cannot set aside certain constituencies for just female. Otherwise, all and sundry will be allowed to contest, and if so wished by his constituent, he will be elected into office. So these are some of the critical issues that other members of the community must be involved.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Masu. I'm sure that when you do have the opportunity of reading the bills that have been sent, you have the titles and what is contained there. Back to the studios, Dr. Innocent Mebiri, we've been getting the views about process and procedure. What do you know about this, and what is the expectation, or what has been the convention?
Yeah, expectation and convention. By the provision of Section 9.2, what the Constitution wants is a resolution to the National Assembly from the State Assembly. And how the State Assembly come by that resolution is not defined by any procedure. They have the right to regulate their rules. The bills sent to them, the constitutional amendment bills sent to them, are not bills that are initiated from the state level to say that it will pass through first reading, second reading, committee stage, public hearing. But within their procedure, they can decide to do what they want to do. The National Assembly cannot regulate how State Assembly want to conduct its legislative affairs. They have their own procedure of how to deal with whatever instrument that is before them. But the point to be made is that the National Assembly had a national public hearing at the various geopolitical zones, at least 2 states in the various political zones. The State Assembly members were carried along. I'm aware that the National Assembly wrote them to be part of the public hearing. But that does not mean that if they want to go extra mile to raise a resolution, that they cannot do. But within any procedure, every State Assembly can decide how to go about the instrument that has been sent to them by the National Assembly.
So there is no constitutional specification on the methodology or the process the state assemblies will have to go through to come up with the passage of the bill at that level. But let's also get it.
No, but listen to the caveat, that's the proviso, that the absence of a definite or an explicit constitutional provision of how states should go about it does not preclude the states from adopting their own procedure for that process.
Not at all.
All right, why I'm even concerned about the fact that we're in Nigeria, we know what obtains at a point. If the State House of Assembly could pass that bill and one says, look, the process that they use is unconstitutional, that might be another issue altogether, that they adopted, since it's not specified in the Constitution. Because, this is the 5th time that we're trying to get this right? And again, anything that will delay it or truncate it, because already some people are saying that it's about being truncated and all of that. Nigerians may not be happy with that. Let's return to Makurdi, where we have Honorable Yohemba. Let's get your view on all of this. You've listened to your colleagues in Kaduna and in Kano saying that there could be need for public hearing before they can arrive at any decision with respect to what has been transmitted to them.
Well, I do not share the view that there should be a public hearing. As rightly stated, these bills are not initiated from the states. These are bills that have gone through the public hearing committee and then passed by the National Assembly. And let me quickly say this too, that each state of the Federation has 3 senators from each state. These senators are also part of the processes. They liaise back with members of the State House of Assembly. They have interactive sessions with them, in most cases, before going to debate. So they are working in tandem with various State Houses of Assembly. They work with their state assemblies before reporting back and then casting their vote. So that process has been concluded. This is about the first time I have participated in 2 constitutional amendments while I was in the House. I'm a 2-term member, and I participated in these processes. And never have we taken a position. You know what happened basically is the state governors have a lot of pressure, or let me say lobbying, the various State Houses of Assembly So whatever position that is taken, in most cases, the governors exert pressure on them not to pass such provisions. But this time around, Nigerians should expect positive results from the State Houses of Assembly regarding the constitutional amendments, because the provisions, the clauses that have been thrown up, local government autonomy, legislative autonomy, and the judiciary autonomy, and various other ones, amendment, electricity generation, and other sectors of the economy that have been legislated over. And so sometimes you see that they vote against certain provisions simply because they are carrying instructions from their people at the top. So there's no need for us to waste resources as in going through public hearing when the members of the National Assembly from various states have participated. These are also representatives of our people. So if they have taken a decision, that decision is binding on us. For us, it's just to concord. This is a constitutional provision that we need to third. We need 24 states or the federation to go with those amendments. If those amendments are not approved by the State House Assembly, they are not passed. And so I find it very difficult to agree that, look, let us go through the whole hop of public hearing, going through it's rather very strange. We have never done that before. And in various State Houses of Assembly, we have never subjected constitutional amendments to public hearings. It's never. It's rather very strange to me that, members of the House of Assembly, in most cases, they will want this kind of situation where certain amount of money are made for public hearing and all of this. Sometimes those things don't. And whenever they are doing this, you will see that the governors who hold the ace, who have the financial, they hold the ace to masturbate them from passing such provisions, because they need funds to be released from government house for them to undergo the public hearings. So it's not worth it at all.
Right, Honorable Yohemba, thank you very much for your position. Let's return to our Kaduna Network Center. If that center has been thrown up now by our engineers, right. Honorable Suleiman Dabo, well, the issue of process and procedure is one that you have divided opinions on. Just listen to Yohemba, the former Speaker of the Benue House of Assembly. I'm just wondering, earlier you were saying that the Kaduna Speaker is trying to rally the speakers of the northern states for a retreat on how to go about this, and perhaps out of that retreat you could have a pathway on dealing with this constitutional amendment. But let our viewers know, a constitutional amendment process doesn't require either group think or group voting. So why this group retreat?
Thank you very much. Before answering that question, I will permit my lighting on just as a rider. I think with due respect to the former deputy speaker from Benue State, I think what I want to state here in unambiguous terms is that the issue of sending or transmitting these amendments to the state houses of assembly was not just captured in the constitution for nothing. There must be a wisdom and a rationale behind it. And if the National Assembly are representatives of the people, maybe the senators coming from my state, 3 of them, 2 APC, 1 PDP, are representing Kaduna State, I don't think there is the need for even the bills to be transmitted to the state houses of assembly if we don't have a role to play. Now, let me give you some examples. Let's take the example of the abrogation of local government state joint account, and also the issue of providing more or less a kind of federal framework, legal framework for them, so that they can be captured in such a way that they will have the legal operational framework. State houses of assemblies are performing the oversight function of local government administration. And in terms of local government administration in Nigeria today, there are even peculiarities. And this comes to answer why the Speaker of the State House of Assembly in Kaduna, who is the chair of the Speakers of Northern Governors Forum, the justification for coming together to look at some of these diversities, some of these peculiarities, because Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and culturally diversified nation. We have diversities in almost everything. The multicultural nature of Nigeria, I think, is one of the reasons why it is stated in Nigerian constitution that some of these things cannot just see the light of the day without coming down to the grassroots, because more or less we are more or less grassroots politicians. Our senators are in Abuja, our members of House of Representatives are in Abuja. For example, as a member representing my own constituency, Zaria City, I always go back to my constituency on Friday, I return to Kaduna on Monday. So I know the problems of my people. So if you say, because what he is trying to say is because already there is this interaction between the members of the National Assembly and the members of State Assembly, so therefore there is no need for public hearing. But at the end of the day, we should understand that whatever we are going to do, we will be held to account. People will hold us to account for whatever we are going to do. And that accountability period is very close, because these bills are coming, these amendments are coming in a very critical period. We are facing elections now, and people are watching us to see what we are going to do in their own interest or otherwise. So I think it is important that we understand, as long as whatever we are going to do is not in contravention of the Nigerian Constitution, and we feel, and also I need to also correct the assertion from the beginning. What I said is that we as an assembly, the Speaker, we've advised him, and I think he has taken our advice, that we are going on a retreat as Kaduna State House of Assembly. And we have also advised him, even though that has been his idea, that he is going to bring, or he is going to reach out, rather, he is going to reach out to speakers of the Northern Houses of Assembly, so that they can discuss this issue. Having said that, there is an issue that is purely for us in the amendment procedure. In some of the bills to be amended, the one that what I meant by purely for us is the issue of our autonomy. So when you talk about our autonomy, in the previous discussion we had here in Good Morning Nigeria, I mentioned there are even states in northern Nigeria, I know some of them, for example, Niger State, I gave this example, that are not even keen in the autonomy now, because they realize that if they go into the autonomy, they are not likely going to get the funds that they are getting now because of their peculiarity in terms of their funding. For example, the Kaduna State IGR last year, we had 50.4 billion. Compared to Niger State, where they will have to borrow even to pay salaries. So these are issues that we need to put heads together as well, because happily, and what is even important, and my happiness with all this discussion is that we are beginning even to see even lacunas in Nigerian constitution that will call for the attention of the generality of Nigerians, and we as lawmakers to look into those issues, because something has been stated here that even the procedure, there is no clearly spelled out procedure in terms of this amendment at the state houses of assemblies. So it means this is a lacuna that we have to look at, maybe in the event of maybe having some of the challenges, people coming out to say that what we are even doing is unconstitutional or is illegal or null and void or whatsoever they may call it. We can be able to correct, because as we move on, we have to do it. We cannot be victims of paralysis analysis. We cannot just sit down and say, because this is not, this is likely going to have some challenges, we will not do it. We have to do it because we believe, we are convinced, we have the conviction that this is what we have to do to institutionalize democracy, and this is what we are going to do to make the society better, to build institutions of governance, and to make the society better for all.
All right, Honorable Suleiman Dabo, we appreciate your position on this particular matter, but we also know that there's no perfect constitution anywhere in the world, and that no matter the processes, that you may undertake, you may never get a perfect constitution. We're also hoping that if some state houses of assembly would prefer to have public hearing on certain aspects of the 48 bills in question, well, that's no problem based on what you have elucidated. All we're just praying is that this thing gets through, it does not get truncated along the line based on processes and procedures. All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, the conversation continues.
All right, you're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. We are still on the amendment process for the Constitution for a 5th time, and all our guests are still with us. Back to the studios now. Dr. Innocent Mebiri, well, of course, you can hear the contentions around the process and procedure. You may wish to also comment on that or re-emphasize what you said earlier. But is there a time delimited for the state houses of assembly to make their returns on the bills that they have received?
There is no time limit because the Constitution does not provide a time limit. And unfortunately, so far, there is no clear procedure in terms of maybe having a Constitution Amendment Procedure Act such that time can be put when it's transmitted to the State Assembly. The State Assembly shall, within so period, transmit back to the National Assembly their resolution. There is nothing like that. Everything within the Constitution Amendment Procedure is still under Section 9(2) of the Constitution. And in any case, you can have that in conjunction with the process of lawmaking at the level of the National Assembly, because that requires that there should be a process of 2/3 majority of members in the Senate and the House of Reps. But for the State Assembly, there is no mention of 2/3 or 1/3, as the case may be, but that there should be a resolution.
Hang on. When you say there should be a resolution, I will get it from the other lawmakers in the State House of Assembly. When you say there is a resolution, there is a presumption that a resolution will be a simple majority.
Yeah.
Is it not 2/3 majority of the Houses of Assembly that is required to pass the bill?
2/3 majority of
the state
assemblies. That is, out of 36, you require 24 states, at least 24 states, saying yes to the bills and not saying no. How the state assemblies come by saying the yes is not defined in the Constitution. Either by a yes vote or by, vote count of 2/3 or 1/3, as the case may be, as the House, as a particular House might define how they want to arrive at the resolution of yes or no.
Okay, let's go back again to our second guest in Kaduna, not Suleiman Dabo now, the other guest who is the Deputy Speaker of Kaduna House of Assembly. You have had your colleagues. I think you concord with Dabo with respect to the issue of public hearing and what have you. There's one point that Dabo made. He said that he's sure that the House of Assembly in Niger State may not really necessarily pass the bill on the financial autonomy of the State House of Assembly because they may not be getting what they were getting before now. In such a situation, if we have several, or if not up to 2/3 of the Houses of Assembly voting against that autonomy, Do you think that it will augur well for the state houses of assembly?
Thank you very much. We are going to handle constitutional amendments with the constitutional mandate given to us as houses of assembly. And we will do that with all seriousness because we are representative of our people and we have to do that with every sense of maturity. I want to make a correction to what my colleague said here. He did not say that, frankly, Niger State is not considering having autonomy as mandated by the Constitution of Nigeria. They have hiccups, we know very well, but that's not to say that they are not part of it, and we know that they are part of it, and they will continue to be part of it. It is something that is constitutional, it's going to be good for them, and it's something that Nigerians need. Back to your question, the process of amending the Constitution as it relates to the states of houses of assembly will definitely take its course on individual assembly, and the process will be summed up at the end of the day to see what every assembly has said concerning the amendments. Again, we will not vote according to groups. We will vote as individuals, and it has to go through the approved processes of making a concussion on an amendment, which we know very well. And I want to also correct an impression made by my colleague from Benue, a former deputy speaker. It is very true that we have senators, we have houses of representative members, and we also know that they are supposed to be representing people, and they are really. We also represent people. We are closer to the people at the grassroots. And to say that they actually did a public hearing that involved all of us as houses of assembly, to me is an assumption, because if we ask him to give some proofs as to how the senators and the houses of representatives held their public hearings in their constituencies, he may just find out that what he said is not true. So you see, we are not insisting that we must have public hearings, but it is actually a possibility where we see these bills critically. We are going to examine them as they come, and we see the need, what to do, and how to get our answers back to the National Assembly. That we will do with all sense of responsibility. And I think that if we are not important, our votes will not even be required on this very matter. So, and I think it is equally good for us to use what the Constitution makes available for us to contribute to nation building. That we will do, and with every sense of responsibility. We are not saying that anyone is not doing his work, but I think everyone should be allowed to do his work and do it well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Zankai. Let's just also make a correction. Right Honorable David Yohemba, who is with us from Makode Network Center, is actually a former speaker of the Benue State House of Assembly and not deputy speaker. He was a presiding officer at the Benue State House of Assembly. And we're going back to him now to get his comments. Right Honorable David Yohemba, you may wish to respond to any of the issues, but I'm just wondering, one, in terms of time delimitation for the returns from the State Houses of Assembly, that's one. Second point, the view is widespread that a number of the State Houses of Assembly do not have a mind of their own. In other words, they are under the direct control and influence of the state governors. how might the State House of Assembly assert their independence, or how might they express a mind of their own in this constitutional amendment process?
Let me start by appreciating you for that correction. And we are going to see positive results from the present crop of legislators. You know, hopefully the legislature is becoming increasingly aware of the mandate placed on them by the society. And so it behoves of them to now begin to do things that the people will go with them, especially now that we are into the election period. They must have to do the various reforms, quite drastic. The houses are most likely to follow up the passage of these bills. You can see the overwhelming voting pattern in the National Assembly. They went in the same direction without any mindset. I appreciate the fact that governors, state governors, have overbearing influence on the legislative houses. They pressurize them not to vote in certain direction, especially now that the local government autonomy, state legislative autonomy, the amendment as to power generation, electricity and others, so many of these things are coming up and they have been voted. So when I look at the debate just now with, between me and my colleagues about having public hearing on a bill that you do not even have powers to do. Most of these are residual. It is only the National Assembly that have powers to legislate on some of these aspects. And then you want to subject them to the House of Assembly for debate. Debate on a bill that you do not have powers to, enact after all. And so as for that aspect, I think that whatever position we take as to how we arrive at the two-thirds, the form that are being circulated is either yes or no. It's either this one pass or it does not pass. So currently, whatever that we're coming up with, the procedure is not even a problem. Whatever procedure that we adapt onto how we arrive at getting a two-thirds, getting the 24 states, in most cases it becomes extremely difficult. And so whatever the speaker, the current chair of the Northern Speakers Forum, whatever views they'll be able to gather.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Honorable David Yohemba, former Speaker, Benue State House of Assembly. We'd like to thank you and appreciate you also for being part of our program this morning. We thank you. We hope to also host you some other time when we bring up similar issues such as today's issue. Thank you indeed. All right, back to the studio once again, and let's get perhaps what will be your closing thoughts, Dr. Innocent Mebiri. You say there's no timeline with respect to when the National Assembly is expecting to have the vote of yes or no of the State Houses of Assembly. Why is it left that open? Right. So, but when, as a clerk of the committee, when are you expecting? Say, give any maybe 1 week, 2, 3, 4 case maybe. Where are you expecting the but it cannot be indefinite?
You cannot, first, the National Assembly cannot sanction any state that doesn't even return. That doesn't even return what has been transmitted to them. It can't even sanction. But the important thing is that for the good of the nation, what has been passed and transmitted to the state for the benefit of the nation, it is appropriate and fine that the State Assembly legislatively deal with it as quickly as they can and return to the National Assembly, so that we will have a clear direction of what to do with regards to the bills that has been sent and transmitted to the State Assembly. That's the important thing to me.
What it means, therefore, Dr. Mebiri, those bills remain alive while the tenure of the legislature and is also alive.
Yes.
In other words, there is no compulsion to pass those bills today, but at the expiration of the tenure of the legislature, which could be sometime in June next year, if those bills are not passed, then of course it means there is a failure.
Yeah, that's what it means. Then, if out of 36, you have 24 that have passed those bills in terms of the resolution, you get a resolution, a yes resolution from 24 states. Even when the remaining states don't bring their resolution, the bill has as well passed. And yes, and also can be sent to Mr. President for his assent.
Yeah. Well, it also means once you hit the threshold of 24, it's as good as passed.
Yes.
But it's also important to point out, because 44 of the 68 bills were passed. Those 44 bills do not include what has been generally referred to as the gender-friendly bills. It means that under this current alteration process, those bills cannot be handled, or those amendments intended for the Constitution cannot be handled.
That is not completely true.
What is true? What is true?
What is true is that the Constitution provides that the National Assembly, the state, the Senate, and the House can regulate its procedure. That the death of a bill is in the standing order, which the two chambers can as well.
We are out of time. We are out of time, and we'd like to thank you, for being part of our program this morning, Dr. Innocent Mebiri, Director, Legislative Clerk, Senate Committee on Review of the 1999 Constitution. Thank you for coming this morning. And then we also had Right Honorable Dr. Isaac Zankai, Deputy Speaker, Kaduna State House of Assembly, as well as Honorable Suleiman Dabo, Kaduna State House of Assembly. We thank both of you for sharing your thoughts on this matter. We just hope that a public hearing will not delay your return of the votes on this matter. Thank you indeed. Zubairu Hamza Masu, Deputy Speaker, Kano State House of Assembly and Chairman ad hoc committee on constitutional amendment. Thank you indeed for being part of our program this morning. We hope to have you some other time.
All right, that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We appreciate you being with us. We're back same time tomorrow, 7 in the morning. I'm Kingsley. Inside alone.
And I'm Kyrian Umayo. Thank you for watching. See you again.